Welcome back to the State and Local Sports Show here with Mark Tennis of Cal High Sports, the co-founder and editor. High school football week 6, the SJA and TCal beginning this week. And with the TCal beginning, of course, you look at St. Mary's football. They've won 10 consecutive games in this league format since the section's latest realignment. The closest thing to a test they should receive in this league would be Lincoln in Week 10 in my mind. I just wrote a column about the public versus private school debate. St. Mary's, of course, this year is a pretty specific example of a dominant team, but of course it varies year to year, sport to sport, season to season. Where do you land on the debate in general, especially when you're talking about separating or not separating private and public schools in California leagues?
Yeah, this is really a debate that I think is very specific depending on what town or community you live in. It's a different debate in Fresno than it is in Stockton. It's a different debate in the Bay Area than it is in Stockton. It's a different debate in Orange County than it is in San Diego. So it sort of really depends. You know, a good example is Clovis and Fresno, where you have Clovis Unified, which is such a strong public school district and has such awesome facilities that parents just, why would you go to a private school? There's no need. The public schools are in your area are so good. So it really depends on the town, the community you live in.
When I look at leagues compared to the playoff format, football specifically, St. Mary's goes to play a Folsom or a Del Oro, that really kind of insular and incredibly well-supported team. You don't really feel like it's unfair in the same way. It is hard, though. It's, if say what you did with St. Mary's girls basketball where they were taken out of the TCal, if you do that across the board, that leaves hundreds of athletes at St. Mary's who don't get a chance at winning a league title. Is that fair? Again, sport to sport, is it fair for the other team? And you made the good point that recently Tracy Volleyball just beat St. Mary's, and last spring Tracy Baseball beat St. Mary's in the section playoffs. So it's not this across-the-board complete annihilation, but just coming into TCal football, I figured it was a good time to talk about it.
It does look like it's more like annihilation this year in football, but Lincoln is down right now, but even 4 or 5 years ago, they definitely lost to St. Mary's, but they were definitely competitive, and they weren't slaughters. They weren't let's have the running clock kind of stuff. And you may get all running clocks in all the games with St. Mary's Football League this year, but this senior class they have is going to move on. There'll be other kids stepping up. Lincoln has some good underclass players, and maybe they'll be better in some years to come. So I don't think St. Mary's football is quite there to the level of dominance of St. Mary's girls basketball, where we're talking about independent league schedules and that kind of thing. But they're getting close. They're certainly getting close.
Now, Mark does a weekly column for us on the Record and RecordNet.com this week. We talked about the new class of the Sac-Joaquin Section Hall of Fame, including a posthumous inductee from the area. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Last Friday the section released their inaugurees for the next Hall of Fame, which is going to be going in on October the 16th in Sacramento. And the one local athlete is actually someone who competed more than 100 years ago from Stockton High School, a track sprinter named George Parker. And I remember him from my days at the Tracy Press because he was an inaugural inductee into the Tracy Sports Hall of Fame. So the name stuck to me, and I looked up some more information about him when the Section Hall of Fame came out, and found a great column by my former boss, Sam Matthews of the Tracy Press. And George was just unbelievable. I mean, if you think about it, he ran a 21.2 hand time in the 220-yard dash in 1914. How many kids even today can run a 21.2? Hardly anybody.
He probably had shoes made of duct tape.
Well, right? I don't know, but he was kind of a sensation where he went overseas and competed. And if you read stuff about him, it's really kind of an amazing story. And he comes back. He couldn't go to the Olympics in 1916 because of World War I. And Tracy High hadn't even opened yet, so he went to Stockton, but he was from a farm in Tracy. He went back home and worked on the farm for a few years, and never gained much fame. So it's kind of amazing, and a big kudos to the section for having this information on an athlete more than 100 years ago. And that's the kind of stuff I, of course, love. And so it should be a great evening for the people who are there hearing about this this athlete who's long since departed. And then the other local entry is in the media category, and that's longtime Lodi News Sentinel sports editor Carl Underwood, who passed away a couple years ago at age 91. Carl was a sports editor in Lodi for probably something close to 40 years. And I believe I met him a few times on a selection committee for the Shrine All-Star football game. And he's just one of those throwback kind of sports editors who just loved high school sports and loved his town, loved the schools that he covered. But at the same time, he'd also talk about kids and schools that Lodi players and teams went up against. So I remember him from those kind of things. So it's good the Sac-Joaquin section has a Hall of Fame. I myself was entered with my uncle in 2010 in the inaugural Hall of Fame in the media category, and it was one of the great honors of my life so far. So it should be a good night, and hopefully people will want to read more about George Parker.
Now, this week, like I said, week 6 of high school football. Not a ton of games that are potentially close locally. It seems like one of those weeks where there might be some lopsided ones, but some interesting ones. From our power rankings, number 2, Manteca hosting number 4, Sierra. That's a rivalry game. Sierra just had an emotional comeback win over number 5, East Union, 37-36 in overtime. I saw Manteca last week, just polished. They're big, they're fast. I mean, it's one of those communities and programs we talk about where they've been learning this style of football for probably 12 years now. I think Manteca takes this one, though, especially because I think Sierra might just be emotionally spent after last week. Well, Manteca had pretty much won the game in 5 minutes against Western Ranch.
Yeah, I think Manteca does seem like they're at another level this year, and might even be able to beat Central Catholic when they play them in a couple weeks. That'll be good. The key will be how far they go in Division III, and I think they can go a long way, maybe even win it this time.
And remember, Central Catholic now will be in Division II because of their 4 consecutive state championship runs. Inderkum of Sacramento, who knocked out Manteca last year, A, isn't as formidable as we once thought this year, and B, are too big of a school now, so they would be Division II or above. SJA starts this week. Edison still looking for its first win. They host Bear Creek, which is 2-3. However, Edison played, in my mind, a tougher preseason schedule. They have a new coach, and they've just kind of been running a different offense than they once thought. Hassani Zachary, their wide receiver transfer, who did a great job at that position, now kind of a dual threat quarterback for them. I like Bear Creek, but I like it to be close.
I kind of like Edison. I just think they have a couple extra athletes with some more talented skills that may make a difference.
And finally, Western Ranch going to East Union. East Union looking for its first winning season since 2010. Western Ranch in the same vein since 2005. Especially for East Union, in my mind, even though they have a one-game better record, they still have Central Catholic and Manteca on the schedule. Western Ranch is done with that. I think these teams, they won an at-large playoff bid, which is the 6th win mark for the season. They need this one. I like East Union at home, especially probably angry after that close loss last week.
Yeah, no, I agree. They played very well and defeated, and the week before they played very well. So there's no reason not to think they're going to continue to play well.
The most interesting game in the section, I think we both agree, is Folsom and Del Oro this week. Now, Folsom entered the season as the number 1 ranked team in the section. This is a Sierra Foothill League game. Of course, Sac High upset Folsom earlier this year. And because Del Oro, enrollment-wise and where the section would put them, would be Division II if they were not a league champion, as you were saying, and maybe you can elaborate on. This is an interesting game to watch for St. Mary's fans.
Yeah, this is an interesting game for St. Mary's fans. I wouldn't worry too much about seedings, whether St. Mary's is going to be a 1 or a 2, because it doesn't really matter in 1 or 2. The thing to keep in mind in this game for St. Mary's fans is that Del Oro, if they win and go on to win the league title, would be in Division I. Folsom is going to be in Division I regardless. And whoever wins this game, as far as St. Mary's, is going to be a good team they'd have to play. The point is, if Del Oro is sitting in Division II, then St. Mary's doesn't have to worry about them at all. So if you're a St. Mary's fan, you just kind of want to get the field diluted a little bit to improve your chances. Then Del Oro being in Division II is obviously going to be better for you than Del Oro being in Division I.
All right, head on over to CalHighSports.com. Less than $20 a year, less than $2 a month for that Gold Club membership for all of your insider content. And thanks for joining us, Mark.
Thanks again. It'll be another great weekend.